Well, that's most of us. All right, where I left off on Wednesday was talking about the rehearsal process from the point of view of the director. We will continue that. I'm headed toward page 108, 109, 110. For those of you who are looking for something to connect with in terms of the textbook. On Wednesday, I got through the first phase, what I said was a 7-phase process, moving a play from page to stage. And that was, the first step is the read-through. And now again, let me reiterate that regardless of the length of time that you have to rehearse a play, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months, you're still going to jump through all of these hoops of the rehearsal process. And it all begins with that first rehearsal that I referred to as a read-through. And the title of that type of rehearsal is exactly what it is. A familiarization rehearsal for the director to begin communicating to his actors or his cast the concept of the play, what the play is about, how he views the characters, how he wants the actors to approach creating those characters, and so forth. The second phase, which is probably the longest phase, is what we call the blocking rehearsals. Blocking rehearsals. So we start with the read-through. All right, I've already defined the term blocking. Let me do so again. Blocking is the directorial term for establishing the traffic patterns of the actors on stage. Again, blocking is analogous to playing chess. That director is moving those characters about the stage in a strategic manner for a reason. They are not just moving around arbitrarily, where the actor feels like they want to go on that particular day. They're creating visual images, groupings of characters. How they place them, how they move them, is all communicating information to the audience, the viewer. Now, there's a couple of interesting things here in terms of this. In terms of stage geography, this is what we call the proscenium arch, which is that opening of the stage. Here's the area of the stage that is below the proscenium arch. Is called the apron. When a director is speaking to actors, he uses terms like upstage, downstage, move upstage. When an actor is moving away from the audience, that is moving upstage. When they move toward the audience, they're moving downstage. And more peculiar is everything that the director, when the director is communicating blocking to an actor, everything is from the actor's point of view. If a director says, I want you to move down right, they're going to move this way. Now, I just moved to your left, but down left would be this way. So it's all from the actor's point of view. Stage right, stage left, upstage, downstage. And this is the kind of language that a director is speaking to actors during the blocking. You know, enter from the door stage left, exit through the door stage right, and so forth. But the point here is that they are strategically moving the actors about the stage. Now, a director doesn't come in and establish the movement for the entire play in one rehearsal. They're going to break it up into sections. They might break up the first scene into 2 sections or play one scene at a time per rehearsal. But the point here is they're still beginning to establish where the actor moves, when they move, where they sit, where they stand, where they fall over dead. They're dictating. This is where all of that work in the prompt book that I talked about previously, where they're beginning to envision the characters moving about the stage, and they're referring to their notes in the prompt script in terms of how they want to stage a particular scene or a particular moment in the play. But there will be an entire series of blocking rehearsals. The next phase that they get into in terms of rehearsals is what we call working rehearsals. Working rehearsals. Now, what is this all about? A couple of things happens with working rehearsals. Now the actors are attempting to marry, if you will, the lines of dialogue with their actions, with their movement. They're trying to mesh together what they are saying while they are moving. And in essence, they're working a scene. A director says, okay, I need you to be by this table by the time you finish that line of dialogue. The actor goes, blah, 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 blah. Whoops, you're not there. All right, we're going to have to shift things a little bit here so that you can get to that table by the end of that line of dialogue. Back up, let's work it again. Move quicker, move slower. And they're trying to marry these two things together. Because the question comes at this point, what is more important, what they're doing or what they're saying? And I'm asking you that. What is more important, what they're doing or what they're saying? It's a visual art form. What they're doing. You go to the theater to see the action of the play, not just to hear the actor stand there and recite dialogue. Now, another issue that comes up in the working rehearsals. This is the inclusion of what we call stage business. Stage business. And I will probably see this on the next test. Somebody writes this because they don't remember the real definition of it. But stage business has nothing to do with the accounting or the economics of the play. Business comes from the word busy, what they're doing. And what I'm getting at here is, this is where we begin to include what the actors are doing within the blocking. These are the smaller activities that the actor is engaged in within the blocking. My blocking might have been established for me to enter from this stage right door and to walk 3 or 4 steps on the stage and turn and face the audience. My stage business would be to take a swig of coffee. This is what I'm doing within getting from point A to point B. Stage business has to do with the utilization of what we call props. P-R-O-P-S. Comes from the word property, meaning that it's my property. But it's the utilization of props. What the actor is doing within the blocking. To give you an example, this is my word processor. It cost me $1.49. You all recognize it as a ballpoint pen. I have this in my shirt pocket. All right, let's say I'm having an exchange with this gentleman right here, 2 actors on stage. What kind of an electronic device do you have in your hand that you are so preoccupied with? All right, put that away. You're beginning to drive me crazy. You're spending all this time looking at it. Anyway, going back to the prop. I can take this pen out of my pocket at some point and threaten him with that. I'm not just verbally threatening him through the dialogue. I'm taking a simple thing like this and I've turned it into a weapon. This is stage business. My blocking would be to approach him. The stage business that I'm now including is threatening him with it. And oh, by the way, you do this in real life, it can get you 1 to 5 years in the state penitentiary. It's called simple assault. That's the reason if I get in an argument with somebody, my hands go in my pocket. That way I cannot be accused of anything. But it's something as simple as that. Actors handle all kind of things, clipboards, briefcases, a baseball bat, God knows. But that is the stage business. And what we're doing at the point of working rehearsals is now combining the dialogue with the action and adding in the stage business and working out the timing as an actor moves over and picks that up, and where in the midst of their dialogue do they actually take a drink of the coffee, light a cigarette, get a book off a shelf, whatever it is that is part of the action of the play at that point. The fourth phase of all of this what we call run-throughs. This is typically late in the rehearsal process. Opening night is coming soon, but the run-throughs. At this point, the director is completely staged the play. The actors have learned their dialogue. Now we get to acting. I'm going to talk or speak to this a little bit further. But notice I said they've learned their dialogue. I didn't say they memorized it. They learn it. It becomes part of them. I guarantee you, every one of you have heard somebody stand up in front of a class and recite something that they've memorized. And all that is spewing out of their mouth is a bunch of disconnected words. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't communicate anything. All they're doing is spewing out words. They form a sentence or a complete thought, but they don't communicate anything. That's what happens when you simply memorize. And all you're doing is speaking words in a particular order. Here what we're talking about is the actors have learned the lines so that it's become normal conversation and appears to an audience as normal conversation. They're communicating thoughts and ideas. They're paying attention to the punctuation as it's written by the playwright. A period means the end of a thought. You're supposed to pause before moving forward. A comma. It's again a pause in the middle of a thought. But you have to communicate it in such a way that it becomes normal conversation. My point here is this. By the time we get to the run-throughs, the actors have learned their lines, they know their blocking, they know what their stage business is. It is getting close to performance quality. At this point, the director now will divorce themselves from the production. During the blocking and the working rehearsals, it's very hands-on for the director. Turn this way, turn that way. Don't turn quite so far. We want to see your face at this point. He's telling the actors, he's moving the actors around. Move here, sit there. Jump up in the air here. Sit on this chair at this point. And they're literally up there with their hands on them going, no, I want you here. At this point, the run-throughs, the director becomes hands-off. And the director then has the actors literally perform the entire first act, or on another given rehearsal, the entire second half act. Or maybe they'll run the entirety of the play in sequence without interruption. What the director is hoping that the actors are getting here, and what they are indeed working for, is a sense of tempo and rhythm, and in terms of how the play is going to ebb and flow in performance. At this point, we're beginning to try to polish up the performance. And what the director does during these kinds of rehearsals is they will sit in different places in the theater, in the seats, and watch the play from the audience's point of view. This is where that phrase or term that I've used before, the eye of the audience. The director is looking at it, or attempting to look at it, from the point of view of an audience member that's never seen it before. When I've directed a play, I know every line of dialogue in the entire play. I could recite it from beginning to end. All of a sudden, I've got to put that out of my mind and listen and watch what is happening. Although I may have been looking at this thing for days or weeks, I've got to pick up the frame of mind that I am seeing it for the first time ever. Is what is taking place in front of me making sense? Is it communicating what the playwright intended to communicate? And again, the director will move around, watch it from different points of view in the theater, and they are making notes about things that they like, things they dislike, what they want to change, what they want to alter. Maybe an actor is delivering a line that doesn't quite make sense, or they're putting emphasis on the wrong thing in terms of that line of dialogue. And what the director does is, instead of interrupting them and saying, no, fix it this way, they let them go. Again, they're working for tempo and rhythm and the ebb and the flow of the production. And they're sitting there with a legal pad, a laptop, making notes. At the end of the rehearsal, the actors will gather out in the seats, and the director will say, okay, in scene one, where you've got this line of dialogue, you weren't quite where you needed to be. You need to make sure that you're here. And they share these kinds of notes with the actors at the end of the run-through rehearsal. But again, they're kind of backing off from it now and letting the actors kind of take over in terms of the performance of the play. The next phase that we get into are what we call the technical rehearsals, or tech rehearsals. This is now where we begin to infuse the show's technology into the actor's performance. We're infusing the technology of the show into the actor's performance. With a Broadway play, they'll do this for a month's worth of rehearsal. Regional theater play, they'll do it for a week. Here, I get one night, which means I've got to be on my toes. But we've got some boneheaded directors here. You didn't hear me say that. But we've got some boneheaded directors here. Anyway, the point here is this. This is a run-through rehearsal, but yet at this point, the designers take over. And the three designers in particular that are taking over is the scenic designer, the lighting designer, and the audio designer. And they are working with their staffs during this rehearsal to infuse the different lighting effects, the different light changes, scene changes, scenic effects, special effects, and obviously as well adding in sound effects and background music. But all of those different technological areas are being infused into the actor's performance. And they're working on getting the timing so that it's absolutely dead spot on. I mean, the telephone's got to ring at a specific moment. And I'm talking about down to a split second. It's got to happen there. And they've got to work on these things to make sure that they happen exactly when they're supposed to. Otherwise, the actor delivers their line of dialogue and then goes, wait a minute, the phone is supposed to ring next. You know, it's like you hang the actors out to dry if you don't come right in exactly where the phone or the doorbell or anything else that's supposed to happen in terms of this. But you have the technical rehearsals. These can be very long and drawn out rehearsals because you will work a lighting change or a scene change or an audio effect over and over and over until it's exactly the way the director and the designer envisioned it. I'll give you a point back in the mid-'80s. I did a production of that Shakespeare play we call the Scottish play. You're not supposed to mention the title in public because the play is cursed, and I can prove that it's cursed. But nonetheless, the play Macbeth, it's 3 acts. Each act lasts an hour. It's a 3-hour-long play. The director, when I was working on this show back in the 80s, we decided to do just the technology for the first act one night, the second act another night, the third act on another night, and then put the whole show together on a fourth night. We began rehearsal at 7 p.m. in the evening, and we left the theater all 4 days in a row at 4 a.m. That is how many effects there were in that show. Hundreds of lighting changes and special effects and audio cues and so forth. I could do that when I was younger, but I wouldn't do it today for love nor money. But the technical rehearsals. You infuse the technology into the actor's performance. Now, one thing that I've left out at this point is costumes. You don't want actors in expensive costumes schlepping around while we adjust the lighting change endlessly while they're in these costumes. So that is left out of the tech rehearsal. Once you get done with the tech rehearsals, then you begin what we call the dress rehearsals. The dress rehearsals. Now you're adding costumes. Now you may ask, why in the world would you have a rehearsal that focuses on the actor's clothing? What in the world could be the big deal about that? How hard is it to put on some clothes and go out on stage and perform? Well, here's the deal. Let's take quick changes. An actor goes out this door at the end of a scene, and 20 seconds later they've got to be in an entirely different set of clothes and enter from this side of the stage. We don't walk out here and go, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring the house lights up here. Would y'all wait 15 or 20 minutes while they change their clothes, and we'll resume the play in a few minutes? We can't do that. We can't do like film and do editing or do commercials that last forever. The play is continuous. So the actors have got to learn how to get in and out of the costumes quickly. Modesty is not available
in theater. Literally, an actor will exit this side and they're tearing their clothes off while they run around the set to jump in some more and come back on stage 20 seconds later. But you have to rehearse that timing. You have to rehearse that. Another thing you've got to think about too, costumes are not worn by an actor like decoration. A costume is not decoration like an ornament you hang on a Christmas tree. Those clothes are part of the character. How they wear them, how they use them. Think about this cliche, an obvious cliche. Could you imagine Dracula without a cape? And how Dracula would take that cape and swoop it around before he attacks one of his victims? That costume becomes a prop. It becomes part of the business of that character. And the actors have got to rehearse with this. Another point I'll make here. The actors have to learn how to wear the clothes. They have to learn how to wear the clothes, the costumes. I attended a wedding several months ago, and when the groomsmen came down the aisle, it was all I could do to keep from just laughing my butt off. Now you may ask why. The men in that wedding had no earthly idea how to wear a tuxedo. They looked like they were in rented burlap bags. It was embarrassing. Now, I'm a Southerner too. I wear my blue jeans down here. Some of you wear them down to here, which I don't understand why. Well, I do know why. But you can't wear a tuxedo with your waistband down here. The clothes are not tailored to be worn there. Point in fact, my dress clothes that I wear on Sunday morning or to other special occasions, the waistband is up here. My jeans are down here. Jeans are made to be worn one way. Dress clothes are intended to be worn a different way. And you get a bunch of country bumpkins like what was in this wedding. They're trying to wear a tuxedo the same way they would wear blue jeans and a t-shirt. It doesn't work. So he says, let's pull them up where he doesn't look so slovenly. But the actors have to learn to wear the clothes. I mean, the way people wore clothes in 1770 is different than the way they wore them in 1970 or in 2017. You have to learn how to wear the clothes so that they become an extension of your character. So you have dress rehearsals. I said there were 7 phases. We'll get to the 7th phase now. The very last rehearsal, the one that is the day before opening night, the first paid public performance, the last rehearsal before that first paid public performance is referred to as final dress rehearsal. At the point of technical rehearsal, the stage manager has moved from the director's side and has moved up to that control booth, and they are using their prompt script that I've talked about before, where they have noted everything about the show's technology. They are then controlling the show from the point of tech rehearsal from that control booth. They do it during the tech, they do it during the dresses, and of course they've got control over it at final dress. At final dress rehearsal, the director throws up their hands and says, "You're on your own." The scenic designer, the lighting designer, the costume designer, the audio designer all say, "You're on your own, people." And this is the last rehearsal, the last opportunity for the cast, the stage manager, and the show's operating crew the lighting operator, the sound engineer, the stage hands. It is their one last opportunity to get it all right before the paying public arrives the next day. Hopefully the director and the designers and the technical director have trained the staff and the cast so well that if anything could possibly go wrong, and it's live theater, stuff happens, but if anything were to go awry, they are able to overcome it and keep the show moving forward without the audience knowing a thing. But it's that one last opportunity to get it all right before it goes before a paying public. And that is what we call the final dress rehearsal. And that, in a nutshell, going all the way back to research, prop book development, casting and audition, now rehearsing, that is in a nutshell the director's process. Any questions about any or all of that? Any questions? Because I know most of you are thinking I'm going to jump in my car in just a few minutes and go to the beach for it to snow. Yes, we're supposed to have snow flurries on Sunday. It's supposed to be 80 degrees today and snow flurries on Sunday. Welcome to South Carolina. Beats the fool out of me. All right. No questions about directing. Page 71. Chapter 4, the author says, beginning of the chapter, at the heart of the theater experience is the partnership between the actors and the audience. We in the audience observe the performers on stage, their gestures, their movements, and we listen to their words. Actors in turn are acutely aware of us and the audience, our present, our reactions, and our responses. Previously, we focused on the role of the audience at a performance. In this chapter, we examine the art and craft of acting for the stage. Before we turn to the stage actor, however, we should take note of another type of performance which we are all participants acting in everyday life. What in the world is the author talking about here? Acting in everyday life. Before I answer that question, how many of you think you could be an actor? Anybody think they could be an actor? Only 2 of you think you could do this? Well, what the author is suggesting to you here is this. You are all actors every day. All day, every day. When I was talking about costuming and dress rehearsals a moment ago, I was talking about my dress clothes, my, what we call in the South, my Sunday go to meeting clothes. How many of you behave in church the same way you do with your friends on Friday night? And if you tell me yes you do, I'm going to tell you you're a liar. You ought to see me down here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm framming and bamming on one of these sets. I sound like the worst kind of sailor. Now, do you think I'm going to go have a conversation with the minister at my church in the same manner? Not just no, but no. You play different roles. Right now, some of you are attempting to play the role of a college student. I'm playing the role of a college professor. This afternoon, I'm going to play the role of a technical director. Tonight, when I go home, I'm going to play the role of a husband. When my kids still lived at home, I was not only a husband, but I was also playing the role of a father. When my daughters played softball, I played the role of a coach. You play different roles every day. Think about this. You live over in those roach coach apartments across the street. You go uptown somewhere and you have a few adult beverages with a friend of yours, and you're driving back down Palmetto Street to your apartments. What is that place called? Patriot Place? You're driving back down there, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you look up in your rearview mirror and you see some blue lights flashing. A couple of thoughts go through your mind, but the first one is oh my God. You will instantly become a playwright, because you know that cop is going to tap on your window with the butt end of their flashlight and go, "Where you been? Where you going?" And you're making up in your mind very quickly what you were going, or how you were going to answer those questions. "Yeah, I've been up at Joe's Tavern. I'm sloshed." No. "Oh, I've been visiting my elderly aunt who's in a nursing home, who called me and said she was lonely, so I've been up visiting her, and she just couldn't go to sleep tonight." Yeah, you've just written a hell of a fine play. Besides that, you are going to rehearse it before they can get out of their police cruiser. And then you're going to attempt to give the biggest performance of your life. Some of the best performances I ever saw out of my children's when they wanted money to go with some group skiing in West Virginia. Like, hell, I've never even done that. Why should I let you go? But depending on the situation, you're acting in some shape, manner, or form. We're all actors. So what is acting? Define it for me. Before we get to this definition, however, pull down the laundry. The word actor comes from the ancient Greek word hypocrite. Hypocrite. What does that word look like in terms of today's language? Hypocrite. What is a hypocrite? Well, a hypocrite is me. Yeah, a double standard. I mean, I act one way when I'm standing in my church. I act a different way when I'm standing in the woods with my hunting buddies. I'm two-faced. But is that not what an actor is? They are who they are in real life, and then they are this fictional character that they are portraying on stage, which 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with their own normal day-to-day personality. They're like a chameleon. They're changing color based on the situation. Well, isn't that what we all do every day? It's like that old joke about hiding behind a shelf in the liquor store. You see one of your friends from church come in and you don't want them to see you there, but dang gum, you just saw them there. So, let's get back to where I was headed. Define acting for me. Define acting. What is acting? I've just stated to you that every one of you does it every day of your life. Yes, sir?
Playing the role of a character in a certain situation.
Playing the role of a character in a given situation. What does that mean?
altering your personality.
Wait, I can't hear you.
Playing the role of someone else in a situation that not their life should
Well, you're talking about playing a role that's different than the way you are in real life. Let me ask you this. Is acting for the stage different from acting in day-to-day life? If I murder somebody on stage, am I going to jail? No, of course not. If I murder somebody out here on the sidewalk in a half an hour, I'm going to spend quite a bit of the rest of my life in jail. I'm going to have a judge say, I'm sentencing you to 500 years. I'm going to say to the judge, I can't do 500 years. And the judge is going to say, well, do just as much of it as you can. It's a bad joke in there. But acting in real life and acting for the stage, as similar as they seem, are not the same. This is the reason a professional wrestler can beat the hell out of somebody with a metal folding chair and they don't go to jail for assault and battery with a deadly weapon. So you're sort of on the right track, but you're not. You started to say something too.
altering your personality to benefit you most.
Altering your personality to benefit you most. Well, the only way an actor's benefited by altering their personality is by the amount of money they can charge for their performance. We still haven't gotten to the heart of what acting is. Playing a certain role as necessary. Yeah, I mean, sort of it. But we're missing something here in terms of what I'm driving at. And I'll phrase it this way as simply as I can. Acting is showing. Acting is showing. I don't want you to tell me how you feel. You have to, in theater, show us how you feel. Theater is a visual art form. Yes, there's dialogue involved, but acting is showing. To give you a brief, I won't say definition, it'd be better put for me to say a brief description of what acting is in regards to this idea of acting is showing. Let me give you this description. You can jot down whatever you want to from what I say. Acting is the persuasive demonstration. It is the persuasive demonstration of how a character feels, thinks, or believes. It is the persuasive demonstration of how a character feels, thinks, or believes. And there's a key two-word phrase there, persuasive demonstration. They've got to convince you, the audience, that they are this character through demonstration, by showing you how that character feels, thinks, or believes. So acting, to complete my thought here, is that acting is the persuasive demonstration of how a character feels, thinks, or believes in terms of what the character does in a given situation. People define themselves by how they act and react in a given situation. This is how you discover things about the characters, how it communicates how that character feels, thinks, or believes by the way they meet a challenge. In this case, the conflict of the play. So acting is the persuasive demonstration of how a character feels, thinks, or believes within a given situation. That's a description of acting. It's not a definition of it, because I don't think you can define it. Now, one last thing before we adjourn for the holiday. Can you teach acting? Can you teach acting? Well, now I've got a couple people up there shaking their heads going, no, you can't teach acting. Interestingly enough, here at FMU, we have a freshman acting class, a sophomore acting class, a junior acting class, a senior acting class. You're going to spend 4 semesters taking acting classes if that's your pursuit within our theater major. We're teaching acting. But here's the difference that I'm drawing. You can teach technique, but you can't teach somebody to have talent. It's like saying 20 years ago, Michael Jordan was recognized as the greatest basketball player to ever play the game in the NBA. Did he really need a coach? Well, yeah, he did. Because the coach is working with him on technique. What made him great was talent. And that's either you got it or you don't got it, as we say in the South. All right, I'll leave you with that. We'll come back in a month or so. And continue with this.